So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 7 Plus or S7 Edge 2018. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because we've been covering flagships quite a bit, and I want to take a revisit to some of the older flagships and see which one might be the better buy if you're looking for something that's a little bit cheaper and a little bit older, but still has some great specs. And these are two of my best recommendations when it comes to just that. You can find the S7 Edge for around 200 to 350 bucks. And then you could find the iPhone 7 Plus for around 400 to 500 bucks, maybe a little bit more if you go into the Apple store, but if you find a third party, it's right around there. So these are two of the best options I feel that you can get if you're looking for a secondhand used smartphone. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about if you're deciding to pick up an iPhone 7 Plus or an S7 Edge here in 2018 is the design. Because, you know, the S7 Edge is going to be much cheaper, and I think it gives you a better design. Now, first up, both of these, if you do pick them up, are going to give you bezels, but the industry hasn't really went away from bezels except for certain flagships like iPhone 10, Galaxy S9. You know, the bigger boys in the game, they've kind of went away from it, but not everybody is going that path. So having bezels still isn't that outdated. And personally, I think the ones on the iPhone 8 Plus are a little bit chunkier and thicker than the design over here on the S7 Edge. So for less money, and I think a more compact premium looking design, I think that goes to the S7 Edge. Now this jet black is really shiny and it also looks very premium, but you know, when the iPhone 7 Plus came out, the design was already 3 times over, and then the iPhone 8 Plus did it again. So this design was not even that fresh when it first came out, except for this fresh coat of paint that came on it. And you could also get this in red, which can spruce it up a little bit. But I think if you're going for strictly design, the S7 Edge has the iPhone 7 Plus beat. Look how much smaller it is with the same size screen. I mean, it's much more comfortable to hold in the hand. Now, one thing about the S7 Edge is that sometimes it's easy to press the edges with your hand accidentally because of how curved it is. The curve was very aggressive on the S7 Edge, even more so than the newer Edge phones. And some people really liked that. I actually liked it. It was in the name S7 Edge, and the edge was very aggressive here. You can actually feel it. Very hard edge here, but at the same time, it's still much easier to one-hand this phone. This is probably one of Samsung's best jobs ever when it comes to ergonomics and giving you a big screen and a beautiful look. I think the S7 Edge takes the crown when it comes to design between these two. Now, discussing build quality, I've actually had a good time with both of them. The iPhone 7 Plus, the only issue is the jet black does chip off the paint a little bit. You can see there's a little bit of chipping going on there. And on the rear, this gets scratched up really easy. But if you go with any of the aluminum builds of the iPhone 7 Plus, the build quality is on point, and I think just having a case or a screen protector should be enough for this phone over the long haul. Now, the S7 Edge, because it does have that curved display, as you can see right here, you know, if you hit it on the wrong corner, you could really just cause a crack that'll go all the way across the screen. And cases sometimes don't go over this. They only come up to here. So this phone is a rather vulnerable phone. So I would recommend you get like a tempered glass and try to make sure you can fit it on the S7 Edge and get something that's a pretty good case protection, because this thing is easy to crack. Glass on front and the rear versus aluminum on the back of the iPhone 7 Plus, even though that jet black kind of looks like glass. But because you do have glass on the rear of that S7 Edge, even getting this used phone gives you some of the features that came on the new iPhones, which is wireless charging for this device, and you also get fast charging when you buy an S7 Edge. So still, you have 2018 features in a 2016 smartphone, and Samsung has promised they will update this to Android 8.0 by the end of May. And that brings me on the software itself. So with the software, if we go into general here and about, we are rocking out with 11.3 on the iPhone 7 Plus, and we are rocking out with Android 7.0 Nougat. Now, I did have the 8.0 ported ROM over on my S7 Edge, but I had to take it off because of bugs and stuff like that. It just wasn't running properly. So I'm going to wait for the official version to roll out. But yes, this just goes to show once again that Apple is much more on it with their updates. And when it comes to software, I've had a better experience with the 7 Plus. I'm not even going to kid you here. The 7 Plus, even though the iOS 11 isn't as smooth as it once was, I feel, on iOS 10, you know, the 11.3 brought some good speed enhancements, and battery life is back on point with the 7 Plus for me. So when it comes to software, having Android Nougat here on the Galaxy S7 Edge is one update past what it gave you when it first launched, but still very slow updates here. And if you don't care about updates, it's not going to be a big deal. Now, speaking about performance, this is the Exynos version of the Samsung S7 here, and this is obviously Apple makes their own processors for their hardware. So what have I noticed with performance? Well, I have noticed that if you do get the Exynos model here, at least prior years, I mean, this year with the Snapdragon 845, the S9 is very fast, even with the Snapdragon this year. But in prior years like this, the S7 Edge with the Exynos CPU is basically on point with that of the iPhone 7 Plus here. So they're both basically at the same level of speed in the day-to-day use. Now, the iPhone 7 Plus still has a little bit more of a smooth feel to me. There's not so much when you're just scrolling screens, but overall the general UI just feels more fluid day-to-day using the 7 Plus. So, you know, having that 3 gigs of RAM though versus the 4 gigs of RAM on the S7 Edge can make a slight difference in multitasking, but because the iPhone and iOS kind of holds those applications as a screenshot in multitasking, you don't really ever tell that it's reloading anything. So again, even with the better software updates, I think that the iPhone 7 Plus is ahead of the S7 Edge even in the performance realm. Now let me quickly discuss some special features that I really have come to appreciate about iPhone in general, like all the newer flagships, and one of them is 3D touch. Now I always love using this because it's a quick shortcut to get to your, whatever you're trying to do. However, you could argue that in the control center, you can't actually go into these toggles right from the control center. In Android or on the S7 Edge, you can just quickly hold down to quick shortcut to those settings. Now, Samsung does bring like a 3D touch like feature to Android 8.0 Oreo. So when it does get something like that where you can hold down the apps and has quick shortcuts in supported apps. So the S7 Edge is getting something similar to that when it does get Oreo. For those of you who are already using Oreo, some of you might be, you already know what I'm talking about. Now, if you don't know what that means, basically all it means is that you do get, a really good, accurate display that just is going to be great for photo editing. Everything looks nice and warm and all that stuff. So it's a very good display overall for the 7 Plus. Even though it's an LCD and not an OLED, it's a pretty solid display on the iPhone 7 Plus. Now, kicking it over to the S7 Edge, I don't think the S7 Edge is quite as accurate when it comes to the color rendition, but this OLED is just gorgeous when it comes to its resolution, the vibrant colors, and I think most consumers, or even, if you're thinking about picking one of these up, if you held these side by side, the S7 Edge display would definitely pop more in your face than the iPhone 7 Plus, and I think that most people 9 times out of 10 would prefer how the S7 Edge display looks. It's just the showstopper here between both of these. Also, the 7 Plus was one of the first iPhones to bring the dual portrait, lens camera here with a telephoto here, and then you have the single lens here. And a lot of people say, well, you have selective focus here on the S7 Edge, so I don't really care about having 2 lenses. It actually doesn't make it the same because what Samsung is doing is using software to try to emulate what a dual camera can do. A second camera lens operates as its own and it can give you 2x lossless, no loss of quality when you are zooming in. So that's really good because if you are taking your phone out on vacation or whatever and you want to point far, you're going out on an adventure and you want to point far 2x, you're not going to be able to do that and get the same crispy resolution on the S7 Edge. Now you can go ahead and just quickly zoom in to 2x, but that's not the same because that's digital zoom and that takes away some detail. But personally, I do like the iPhone 7 Plus's camera better, and I do think it takes better photos than the S7 Edge, but I think the focus is better on the S7 Edge. It has that dual pixel AF. So if you're looking for the better camera, more accurate, I'd say get the iPhone 7 Plus, and the front-facing camera is also probably a little bit better on the 7 Plus because of the way that Samsung softens their image on the front. Now, some people might like that, but personally, I prefer all around the image and the camera on 7 Plus, and I think most people will too, especially if you're looking for a more natural and detailed photo that doesn't, soften up the image and processing. Now, the 7 Plus also gives you dual speakers, and for the S7 Edge, we get things like always on display. This is something that you don't see with the iPhone 7 Plus, and it's very appreciated because it's very useful, a lot more useful than a lot of people might think to have an always on display. You get notifications wherever you want, and IP68 versus IP67, so it's a more reliable phone for getting it wet and things like that. If you do happen to drop it in water or you're out in the rain or whatever, I would trust the S7 Edge more than the iPhone 7 Plus, but both of them are IP rated, IP67 over on the 7 Plus. Headphone jack is here for S7 Edge, and it does have expandable memory with curved edge features. So another thing you don't get on the 7 Plus. So overall, they both have their fair share of special features. Talking about their battery life, now the 7 Plus, when it did first get iOS 11, took a huge battery hit, but it's actually doing quite well again here over on the iOS 11.3. My maximum capacity is only down to 98%. Now on the S7 Edge, the battery life is actually quite good because Samsung stuffed a large battery into this phone, and with the Exynos CPU, I've been getting pretty darn good battery life on the S7 Edge. So here, I think it's pretty much a wash. I think both of them are going to be pretty good for you, and I think the 7 Plus does have more staying power if you're off the charger for a longer time, but the S7 Edge definitely does give you fast charging and wireless charging, so it can kind of make up for that. Overall, if you're looking for the road warrior, I picked the 7 Plus. If you're looking for a phone that's more convenient with the fast charging and wireless charging, get yourself the S7 Edge. You won't be disappointed. Now, when it comes to their audio quality, the S7 Edge actually has only a speaker at the bottom, and the iPhone 7 Plus has speakers at the top and the bottom. So it's just a hands down win to the 7 Plus. It's louder, it's easier to hear, and you could cover up the speaker on the S7 Edge quite easily. So audio round goes clearly to the 7 Plus. Both of them make great phone calls, and they're both very loud when making those phone calls. So I don't have too much of a difference there. And I think that either way you go here, you're going to be happy with the phone call quality. So it's 2018. What is the final conclusion? If you're looking to buy yourself a secondhand flagship like the iPhone 7 Plus or the S7 Edge, these are still great choices. I think these new flagships come out and they make people think that what just came out previously isn't that good. Now, I know the S8 is out over the S7 Edge, and that phone has come down since the launch of the S9, but the S8 and S8 Plus are still $500-600, which might be out of the reach for some people. This one right here is going to run you about $200 to $300, maybe even cheaper some places, maybe slightly more some places. So this is a great phone for what you get, and it still runs fantastic. But I know you guys want to know my choice. If there was one phone I could pick between both of these personally, and I only had one choice, I take the 7 Plus just because it looks exactly like the 8 Plus, so I wouldn't feel too much like my phone is, a little bit dated. The S7 Edge kind of looks a little dated compared to the S9. And the 7 Plus is receiving updates just like, any of the other iPhones, and has an A10, which is rumored to be coming into the new iPhone SE 2. So this processor just came in a 2018 iPad. So there's no way, shape, or form that the iPhone 7 Plus is kind of even dated these days. It's just a number difference because it's really running some great processing power. So the 7 Plus will be my choice here. But what is your choice? Comment that down below. Any questions, comments, concerns, let me know as well. And if you found this video helpful, enjoyable, entertaining, informating in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and click that like button for me. Make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. We got plenty of content coming soon. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.